listening to the House by the Video Store podcast.
There's no more room in hell. The dead will walk near.
We have such sights to show you.
I kick ass for the Lord.
Praise God! Give away!
Welcome to the House by the Video Store podcast. I'm your host, William. Joined today will be Derek.
Hello.
And Sean.
Hello.
And on this episode, we're discussing Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the 1989. So is this like a stoner comedy or...
I would kind of put it like it had to be in the same level as like Fast Times at Ridgemont High or something almost.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it was kind of a teen comedy, but it's also for kids. Like, it's not necessarily a teen sex comedy. You know, it's like it seems like for kids, teens, and like...
Definitely a high school
adults.
audience.
Yeah,
young
for sure.
people,
Yeah, like
Because, I
a
mean,
young-
even like we were all kids and we enjoyed it when we were, and they made a cartoon of it. Like,
Yeah.
it obviously appealed to younger audiences.
Well, and
as
it
well.
was too kind of just like a lower budgeted, Back to the Future-esque, high concept kind of comedy movie.
Yeah.
That like I said, there was a cartoon for Back to the Future too. So back in the era when popular movies spawned cartoon franchises, because now it's mostly just animated stuff, right? Like there's not as much, like they don't spin off. I'm trying to think of like a big movie recently that was.
Do anybody remember James Bond Jr.?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
watched that. There was supposed to be a Dumb and Dumber cartoon because I was looking forward to that. I remember, like, I think it was in the Sonic the Hedgehog Archie comics. They had like an ad for like ABC shows or something, and it was
Yeah.
like, here's our fall lineup or something, or here's a lineup of our shows, and they had like a wall, like a wooden fence, and it said like coming soon, and it had animated versions of Harry and Lloyd like poking out behind the fence, and I was like really excited for that at the time, of course. But yeah, like they tried to make everything into a cartoon, and now they do that, but it's always like, again, we were talking about, I think last podcast or the one before, how they didn't really know how to make kids movies, and that wasn't like a huge like.
They didn't have Pixar.
It wasn't like huge.
There was Disney that made the animated films.
Yeah.
And then there was, a few, like one-off kids-themed movies, but a lot of those kids' movies were borderline inappropriate for kids those ages.
Yeah, or easily enjoyable by adults as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying kids' films aren't like that now, but nowadays, plenty of kids' films, they make them and immediately make an animated show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like Trolls.
Well, see, I
don't know. There's like a million of them out
I
there.
had Land Before Time. I remember those damn movies because they had like 17 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but before we get into discussing Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and that's also just because it's been in the news because there's been discussions or talk that Part 3 is gonna happen. Keanu Reeves is back.
Like cross timelines and somehow get involved in John Wick territory too.
But before we go to that, we'll discuss some recent news and some things we've been watching, including Hereditary and Revenge. But in the news, so unless you're living under a rock, everybody in the horror world's been talking because the trailer for the new Halloween films came out. So the new David Gordon Green directed Halloween that has Jamie Lee Curtis back, and then apparently disregards every movie aside from the original film.
Which makes some people mad, which I don't really understand why, because all those movies aren't
Putting
good.
the Halloween story up on a pedestal.
Yeah, you put it on a pedestal. It's just a dude in a mask.
Well, I mean, the other thing about all that stuff is the series already has, I forget who said it, but it's become kind of like a choose your own adventure story because you can choose to watch one and then this new one. You can choose to watch 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6 and then watch that story. Or you can watch 1, 2, H2O and Resurrection. Or you can just watch Halloween 3 because I think in Halloween 3, Halloween, the original is on TV as a TV movie. So that just is in its own continuity. Or you can only watch the Rob Zombie remake and its sequel, or just the Rob Zombie remake, not his sequel.
Or you just watch the sequel and not the remake.
Or so there's all these different routes you can go.
And I totally get that people, like, if this is like one of their favorite franchises of all time, like Halloween is like one of my favorite horror films. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite franchise because I really only like love that first one and part 3, which doesn't even have Michael Myers.
Yeah, part 3 is like something when I was younger I really disliked it. As I've gotten older, I have a lot more appreciation for it.
If I only watched one around Halloween, I would kind of watch 3.
I think 3
because I've seen one. I don't know. I've seen 3 a lot now at this point too. And I understand people that are like, if they're really invested in the storyline and they have done a lot of reading, research, and like they've really put things together. But obviously, just like a lot of horror films from that era, they were flying by the seat of the pants. They get new screenwriters or different people on each production.
Yeah.
They make stuff up as they go. I understand like it's kind of the Bible for some people, but at the same time, like this is kind of cool because it's almost best of both worlds. People aren't complaining because it's not a remake. You know what I mean? But they also get to disregard so much stuff. Like it's a happy medium between like, hey, we're doing a sequel, but you don't have to know a lot of stuff, and also we're not beholden to all this lore that we have to contrive and kind of fit into place.
Just
like
so much.
It's just so messy. It's good that this is like a pretty clean break, but still part of that first film.
And two, something about part 3 is not a movie confined to primarily a single location throughout the majority of the movie.
They're
because some of the Halloweens, like part 2 is almost entirely or not entirely, but it has a big chunk in the hospital. Part 4 has a big chunk in that large house. Part 5 has a big chunk at the farm barn party. Part 6 has a big chunk at a hospital again.
Yeah.
So, it avoids that trope. H2O is mostly at that school.
It does involve the Stonehenge magic rock. And it has
magic
awesome
stone.
Yeah, and it has an awesome power sex bot in the movie.
So I wonder if there's any chance of them bringing. I don't think there is because it might be distracting, and it seems like they're trying to make this kind of straightforward series. But like, it would almost be cool for fans that people are upset that they got rid of a lot of stuff if they brought in some cameos from some of those actors.
Yeah,
and not as their self, not as those characters, but just. Townspeople or something like that. Paul Rudd like runs a shop or something. Yeah. He runs a hardware store.
Paul, and then actually have him working in Baskin Robbins for very short.
And then you could have Danielle Harris have a third role in the Halloween universe.
Yes,
yeah. And then,
but unless that they've been contacted, like I know plenty of them were like, "Hey, we want to be involved in this new movie." When it was first announced.
Well, I remember like there's like a picture where it was like Danielle Harris and others are giving the finger to the new Halloween. Yeah. So it seems as if they were not invited. So the trailer itself. So I actually do not want to watch the trailer for this because I'm going to see it regardless. I saw the minute-long version or the short version was on Instagram as a teaser to the trailer that just showed some footage. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm in. Like I don't need to watch the trailer. But it has been really hard to not see images from it. But like all the images of Michael look really good. Mm-hmm. And, everything like the tone of the trailer, it seems like they're going for a very serious tone. They're not going for a comedic tone or even something like Vice Principals, which is just like a dark comedy that had some elements. Like, it didn't seem like they're going for that either from what I've seen. It looks like they're going for kind of a straightforward vibe.
I mean, not to spoil anything, but they seem to be remaking some elements actually in some ways as well, but making them new as far as some characters and stuff like that. Bringing in new people to replace kind of old stereotypes or, you know what I mean? Like this person is functioning as this person possibly.
Well, I guess you could say with like Laurie's the new Loomis, Laurie Strode's the new Loomis kind of.
But just from the trailer, she seems way more badass than Loomis ever was. So I like that because in a lot of these movies, like you always get like the revenge element, and it's always a guy doing it, and it's you never really get to see like. Somebody's like from what it looks like in the trailer, like she's been. This is what her life's been, is like prepping to they.
The other thing I'll say that's kind of an interesting thing to look at, because we mentioned this on some of like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Like a lot of times they kill the returning characters in the following movies just to clean the slate and bring in somebody new. Or in some cases, they have to recast like some of their lead actors, like when Patricia Arquette didn't return for part 4 or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, so Halloween, I guess something that is like a slight disconnect for this new one is, yes, everybody does have that connection to Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie, but now it's kind of like, well, which version? Because, the first movie was one version of that character, but then she was in the sequel. And then she was in H2O and Resurrection, so you can kind of forget Resurrection.
Resurrection was because she's probably contractually obligated.
And H2O, so it seems like what she's playing in this new Halloween is a vastly different character than what she did in H2O.
Yeah.
So I think it may just make it a little bit hard until people watch the movie and get into it to kind of grasp onto what they loved about that character, because there's been different iterations of that character from the same actress.
Yeah, well, I can just say this, like, if you tell me that the only one that exists is one in this, then I'm gonna throw out the other stuff.
But I'm saying, but like for a lot of people, it's hard to shake those ideas if those are movies they enjoy and have watched.
You can enjoy it, but it's like I haven't watched H2O in so long, and I probably won't before this movie comes out, unless we decide to cover it for the podcast.
We can cover it. It's one of those movies.
We covered that one for some reason.
So
maybe
we did an episode where we covered the Halloween franchise back when they were discussing Halloween Returns being the movie.
I forgot
3 years
all
ago.
about that. Yeah.
So we did that years ago, in 2015, I think, and then Halloween Returns. That idea was scrapped, and that creative team was taken off the project. And then they shopped the rights around and ended up with Blumhouse producing in the current distribution model they're going to have. So that was before the current iteration was what this movie is going to be.
Isn't Danny McBride still involved with this one?
Yes.
Co-writer.
He's a co-writer. So I wonder if he's going to have a cameo in the movie.
Yeah, because I think some of the people that are involved in the other ones had written some of the Saw movies, and then the director had made The Collector and The Collection. So this was like a different, because they even had like official thumbnails for Halloween Returns and stuff like that. And then that movie kind of got scrapped when they didn't get it in production in time, and then the studio position and all that stuff changed around. But so the movie itself, like, I'm super excited for this. I think we mentioned too, like, some of our like chats, like this movie could kind of revitalize slashers or put the final nail in the coffin. Even being successful,
it could put the final
nail in the coffin because people could enjoy it and say, okay, I think we kind of had enough of this now.
That's just from the trailer, like, yeah, it looked awesome and great, but also too, it's like, okay, this is a slasher, and if this is a really good, like, if this is, you know, the second best Halloween film, let's just say the second, doesn't have to be the best one or whatever. Even if it's that good, people may walk away, like, general audience is like, okay, that was a slasher film. You know, now they're more attuned to, even if it is supernatural or some, you know, they may be expecting more. But also too, you know, just seeing Laurie Strode kick ass, like, that's something that I think everybody can get into, but you won't have that in every other slasher film.
No.
It's kind of like diminishing returns with Taken 2 and 3 and all these sequels.
Yeah, you can only do this really like once, and then it works. And you know, we don't know, maybe, you know, when the movie, it's something that, like, when I saw the trailer, which I watched the full one, I was completely sold me on it. You know, knowing who was involved in it, and knowing that we were getting Jamie Lee Curtis back in, I was in anyway, because I think she's at the point where she just does what she wants to do. So I don't think
she didn't have to do
I don't think if she wanted, I think if she thought it was going to be a bad movie, she wouldn't have got involved. And you know, and John Carpenter is going to be involved in it somehow. I know but I think with kind of
producing it, and I think he's doing the score.
So I'm going to go ahead and say his seal of approval's on it because he's doing the score.
To be fair, he produced a lot of his remakes that he didn't really care about the quality.
But I think this is different.
Yeah, I think
because this isn't just.
He was on set for this one. He was on set. He's talked about it. You know, he apparently was involved
more than just a paycheck
because he was involved in vetting out the directors and scripts that they were reviewing. Because I think Adam Wingard had said, like, when he had given, like, talked to them and like what his treatment would be. Like, he saw the email chain where John Carpenter did say, like, he approved of what they were doing, but I guess just ultimately they ended up thinking that the vision that David Gordon Green and Danny McBride had matched what they wanted to do the most.
Yeah.
I would love.
I just want to see him in sweats and like a dirty shirt with like a little buzzer button when everybody says something he didn't like. He's like,
I would love for them to make an awesome ass documentary for this disc release, and
the
road to Haddonfield or something, and like, hey, just interview all the creatives that had ideas, like, hey, here was my pitch for it, here was my pitch, because at this point you don't expect them. A lot of them seemed to be actual sequels, or like it was like, okay, this takes place after part 4 or something. Was Halloween Returns like a couple films into it where it took a break or something?
Or you mean part 4?
Maybe the Halloween. What was the Halloween film from like a few years back?
Oh, the Halloween Returns like concept?
Yes.
So that was essentially where I think that it was
like, wasn't in the middle of the series or something?
So I think it was the idea was that it was like the kid of one of the sheriffs from Halloween 2.
Yeah.
And then Michael Myers had been captured, was going to be executed like with the electric chair, then something happened.
Yes.
And then he got out, and was going after like those teams.
Yeah, so that being a sequel to part 2 and just not happening then, you would think that was never happening now. You know what I mean? They may use concepts of it, but because so many films like this may make a break to where they're not going to make a sequel to part 2, or you know what I mean, or part 4 or something. It seems like they could kind of reveal that. That would be so awesome to have all these people talk about, like, hey, here was my pitch, here was my idea. Like,
because I think too,
fans would eat that up.
They also discussed it with pretty seriously with Mike Flanagan, who had done Hush and Oculus.
They could have just took that movie
and then Adam Wingard, who had done The Guest and stuff like that. And then I think there may have been some other people that weren't as publicized they talked to.
I'm sure.
And like, so all that would be very interesting to know. But I'm super psyched for the movie. I'm excited for this one in a way that I wasn't for like the Platinum Dunes remakes of Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, to me, I always liked Halloween more than those two series, even if they may have had more fun entries that I would rewatch. Like, Jason or Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Like, I can rewatch that all the time because it's just so fun. Like Part 4 of the final chapter. So some of those movies are fun to watch and easy to watch. You could throw them on a party and it's fine. But each year when it comes to like me sitting down and watching like a horror movie I want to watch for Halloween, Halloween is always one of them, is like one of my go-tos. So seeing this franchise come back and seemingly treated with the respect, because like Resurrection was just, even though they got the director back who had, I think Rick Rosenthal, who worked on Part 2, Buster Rhymes says trick or treat and kicks Michael Myers out of a window.
Yeah, I thought it was through a door
or something.
He big boots him through something. So
like that movie, regardless of what their intentions were, they were not treating the franchise with this due respect when they made it like a webcam Michael Myers reality show with that stuff. Like, that just was...
Well, it was popular at the time, which is...
Well, the funny thing is, like, it would only really be possible to do like a reality show on the internet that's popular in the past 5 years. Back then, it was, I guess, feasibly possible, but it would have looked terrible. People didn't have the high-speed internet connections to watch it, all that stuff. But it seems like they're treating the franchise with, respect and getting it to a point where they're being, making an honest, serious attempt to make the best movie they can.
And
not to say,
make them scary.
And not to say that they didn't try that with like H2O, but I think they had asked John Carpenter about coming back, and he said, "Give me $10 million and I'll do it." And they said no. And that movie just feels very 90s if you rewatch it, because it's in that kind of like Miramax, post-Tarantino, Scream era. So it feels very much like that time period. But I'm excited for this one because it's the franchise seemingly treated the most serious it's been since the first one or the second one. So I'm just excited to see that. And yeah, I know people have been like online. People have been hating on it, but people hate everything. So
yeah, I think I asked before we went to shoot that thing on Friday, William. My wife and I were eating across the street, and she had just gotten off work, and she was like, "Did you watch the Halloween trailer?" And I was like, "Yeah, did you?" She's like, "Yeah." And when I was almost surprised that she had watched it, like, because normally I make her watch the stuff, you know what I mean? But I guess, I don't know if it popped up or what, but she watched the trailer.
Yeah.
And then I asked her today, I'm like, "So would you want to go see the Halloween movie?" And she was like, "Are you serious?" And I think she thought I was asking, like, "Can I go by myself or with you?" I don't know. But I was like, "But do you want to see it?" And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, if we weren't dating or like married or whatever, would you just go? She's like, "Yeah, I think I would go see that film." So I was just trying to gauge, like, she likes horror films, but I think if we weren't together, she probably obviously wouldn't see as many in theaters.
Yeah.
But this seems like it would be at least one she would see out of the year.
I think the one thing this movie's going to do is all of our parents are in the same age who grew up with this stuff originally. I think this is one of those rare movies that's going to be able to get that generation back into the theater to watch this movie because of...
Well, the generation that would have been,
who saw this originally.
Late teens, early 20s, high school-ish age, that era, like the target demographic when the movie came out originally.
Is still going to be interesting. And then I think you're going to be able to get people that are our age and, between... I think this appeals to a broad spectrum.
But the funny thing is, like, H2O essentially did this in 1998, like appealed to that same demographic audience again. Yeah. But this one feels, from just everything I've seen about it and heard, it feels less like a
nostalgia trip.
Well, like H2O just felt like it was a post-Scream inspired grab at that market with an established property, trying to get the original talent back, and then getting Jamie Lee Curtis, but that's kind of it. As opposed to like this one feels like it'll do that again, but it feels more serious this time.
But I think this, and not to say like I remember liking H2O at the time.
I liked it at the time a lot, but then rewatching it, it's kind of just very much a product of that era.
It's a little dated, but it's not.
I mean, it's got Josh Hartnett in it, and that date, anything with him in it immediately
because he quit. Because he quit acting. Yeah,
but so
the mask looks really good too. I think.
Yeah,
they showed off a good amount of that in the trailer. I think it looks good. I like the hair. That's something that can look really stupid sometimes.
Yeah, the one thing we did talk about, which is kind of striking to me, is this day and age with the emphasis on mental health that the society puts out, maybe not anything else, is that scene was kind of weird.
Well, too, though,
so it's like, okay, maybe when you actually get to watch it,
the full context.
Yeah. It'll
Well, too,
seem
with like
better.
mental health things, like there probably still are some institutions where it's kind of the wild environment.
Yeah.
Just based on the different ailments people are
I don't think
experiencing.
that they show this in the teaser, and this isn't really like a spoiler, but the courtyard, like in your mind, did they show the courtyard in the thing you watched, William?
No.
So you would think a courtyard would be like, okay, it's people like, courtyard of like our high school or something. There's, no, dude, it is like a
look at a chessboard.
yeah, it was a flat. It looked like Sonic the Hedgehog, like the special levels. It was like a checkboard of white and blue, and then at certain points there was a chain link on the ground, and people were chained to it.
Yeah.
and they were like drooling, going, "Ooh."
Yeah.
Like it seemed very 1970s mental illness thing. It was very weird.
Yeah, and
that was the only thing in the trailer that seemed like surprising.
Now, the
Yeah.
one thing that could work though is if they did that, and that's why he's still the way that he is, like X amount of years
Yeah,
later.
if they made a commentary that like the mental health system being kind of barbaric still in some ways could do more harm than good.
But
So
we'll
I mean,
see.
but one thing I kind of hope for this movie is I just want a straight slasher without much. Like I don't want to. I'm trying to think of ways.
You don't want to take away from the slasher elements. Doing like it's,
Yeah, I don't want a thinky man slasher. I
I'm
just want
fine
a
if they
slasher.
accomplish a lot of stuff, but yeah, like don't lose that in service of giving people what they want, because you can just make another film to accomplish
and
those
the other
goals.
thing that sucks is if they just kind of go back to the style of the original and have John Carpenter do a new synth heavy score. It to a lot of people, it's going to feel like it's ripping off like other throwback modern movies.
I don't-
And
yeah.
but the sad thing is, like, no, they're just following.
Well, I could see people like, man, they're copying for Stranger Things.
Yeah,
It's like, no,
if they have like the
Stranger
heavy synth
Things is gonna-
score.
Yeah, but honestly, I don't remember exactly, but the score from the trailer did not feel Stranger Things or whatever. Like it felt, I remember liking it.
Well, the score too, like, I mean, a
and
lot
it
of
could
times
not even be his yet.
I mean,
don't
they've
know.
said they've done some reshoots. I don't think he would score it until they've locked and have picture lock and are done.
Yeah.
So they're probably just
But
using.
I like the tone of the music in that full trailer. Like I like the direction. It doesn't feel out of place or dated or anything like that. Like
Well,
it fits.
it's funny because they could almost take they could cut this part of the trailer the same way as like Logan almost, and use the same music from the first. Like I hurt myself today, and that would almost work.
Yeah, like we had joked about doing like before the official trailer came out, having like Michael Myers sitting in a room in a chair with like the heavy lighting, and then having Johnny Cash's Hurt play, because that's like a trailer that they or like a promo teaser done for like 18 things.
Yeah.
So like The Shield had one like that, and like 2 or 3 other movies had something like that. But yeah, so Halloween is, one of the most anticipated movies for horror fans and just movie fans in general. Probably a lot of nostalgia there, so we're all looking forward to that a lot. You can look at the trailer or the teaser. Like if you follow their Instagram page, they have like the minute-long version, which is what I watched. I think that's all you really need, because you don't.
I don't know. I think you should.
I mean, I don't know. I'm different. Like this is a slasher film, so I'm fine seeing a bunch of stuff from it
Because
it's not a
that
mystery,
people
really.
gonna die. People gonna live.
I just don't like
somebody
seeing.
gonna-
I just know like when I watch trailers like to movies I've already seen. Because like Hereditary, I didn't watch the trailer for it until after I saw it, and I was like, oh, they gave away like literal things that would have made you not care when it happens because you could see it coming.
There was, we can talk about that a little bit later, but
yeah,
I mean, there's a shot and there's a cool sequence in the trailer they do show where it would reveal what's going to happen.
because I don't want to see third act stuff in trailers.
But I don't know if those characters that was happening to are primary.
Yeah.
But it seemed like a cool little moment. But it was cool because it gives you like, okay, the scares in this, I like what they're doing here.
Yeah.
I mean,
but also too, I think it revealed 2 other characters that you didn't get to see from the other one. They may not be big roles, but it's like, okay, I'm just trying to figure out like what this film was going to be.
something I want to see though is like Michael Myers being in his 60s and just terrible at it now, and he just can't kill anybody. So he's like
Yeah.
stalking.
The one thing
it.
that really sucks though is like Don Pleasance has been gone for
Since the 90s.
Since the 90s,
Like
he
96
passed
or
before
7.
H2O came out. It just kind of sucks that like, and he would have been probably 80 or 90 if not,
he would have been up there in age.
Yeah, it would just been kind of cool if like they did, just had it, even they had him in H2O.
Part of me wonders if they're going to kind of have somebody related to him in this, maybe, or something.
I would think,
like
'cause-
something.
Yeah, it would just be kind of just
But I
no
think-
Star Wars
I think
face editing.
something
on
I
this.
would think they would probably do in this new one, since they seemingly have gone away from the idea that Michael and Laurie are related.
Yeah.
It seems like they're going away from the family stuff that was so prevalent in the sequels of, the Strodes and the Lloyds and all those different characters and the Myers.
Yeah.
It seems like they're kind of going away from that, with the only real connection being Laurie.
Which I wonder if when he escaped, she wants to go after. She's like been wanting him to escape so she can kill him. I wonder if he escapes, is he's not going after her, he's just killing random people, and then she's actually in pursuit of him.
Yeah.
That would be a cool thing of him. Like, it was a cat and mouse, but it turned it on its head, and by the end of the film, he is trying to get away from her because he's not the Terminator. He is. He was never threatened really in the first film too much. Like, when he got shot, he fell out the window. But other than that, like, he had no reason to be afraid or whatever.
Yeah.
So it would be cool to see the cat and mouse go the other way.
Yeah, and she needs to use the line, if it bleeds, we can kill it.
Just throw out just every single line from every 80s.
Yeah.
So another brief trailer thing to mention, an updated TV spot or short teaser for The Predator, for Shane Black's The Predator, has been released.
Yeah.
More just heavy on the action, and
they took the kid out that everybody complained about.
Which I don't get why people complain about.
Real quick, the Halloween thing, it's so funny that everybody was losing their minds about the trailer and mad that they hadn't got to see a trailer yet. And then, I barely read the reaction, and then it dropped, and then people are mad, of course, because in their mind, they've got this they've got it figured out what they think they want this film to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And same with Predator, like, people were like mad because, like, oh, this is what the film is. Like, it was a first trailer. Like,
yeah, because there were people complaining. It's like, well, in the trailer for Halloween, the mask doesn't look as aged as the actual mask does. They've had it sitting in a glass case since 1978. So this movie it's just, I don't know, guys. I don't know.
Well, and then people are mad that Laurie's shooting. It's like, look.
So here's,
you got to do something. You can't have the same thing.
Like, from all the stuff I've seen of the mask, like the poster and the different images from the trailer, it looks really good. Because, like, they showed the real mask, and it looks like the real mask, just it's latex, so it's starting to get...
I guess, do people just want, like, Laurie Strode to be stuck in the 70s, dressed the same way,
bell-bottoms,
act the same way, and then Michael Myers comes to her house and just scream at the top of her lungs? Like,
with a lot of these properties, it's in a no-win situation, because if you make a movie that's, like, just a good general movie... A lot of the hardcore fans feel like you're abandoning them.
But to be fair,
if you make a movie that caters just to the hardcore fans, it doesn't have mainstream appeal. Yeah. So you just kind of end up in this no man's land where I think you just kind of ignore all the voices, make the best movie you can, and let the results speak for themselves. And the vocal minority, in some cases, like some of these Star Wars movies, they've been pretty terrible in terms of the way they went against, went after actresses involved in the movies or different people involved.
Fans, the Star Wars fans,
some of the fans have, some of the vocal minority really upset about anything that doesn't, like, other people will be mad that Halloween, like, Laurie's a strong female and Michael is a killer. Like, oh, it just makes men look like killers. It's like, guys, you got to pick and choose your battles. Like, The Predator, the fact that the movie had a kid in it, I don't, like, especially a Shane Black movie that has a kid in it, I don't see why they're all so upset. Like, there's been literally 4 minutes max footage shown from the entire movie. How can you really make
Plus, Predator 2 kid scene gave us one of the best quotable. Yeah, want some candy. So, like, that was the kids in movies, if they're done right. Like, I know that I was kind of harsh on A Quiet Place, on Reflection, the movie. Maybe I was a little too tough on it. The kids worked in it. They got my nerves a little bit, but like Stranger Things, like, that is a franchise centered around kids. So it's like, you can have kids in the movie and be a good, like, horrifying experience, gory, and it can still work.
Like the new Predator, it doesn't even look like the kid's really the focus. Like, he's in the movie, and it could just be like in it for 15 minutes out of the runtime.
Did he even have any dialogue in that trailer?
In the new trailer, and the new one, it just shows action,
which it seemed to be a response to that. They cut out the kid, showed way more Predator action, and then showed off essentially the new Predator.
Yeah.
So it showed you a lot of stuff. Like, if you want to watch it, like, to me, like, I'm already sold on wanting to see it.
Yeah, I'm already sold on
So I don't really need to see more from it.
Give me a Shane Black, Tom Jane Predator movie, I'm in.
So basically, if they put out a teaser or trailer for a movie that's under a minute, I'll watch it because they're probably not giving away story. But if they make, like, the full story trailer, trailers inevitably have third act stuff. Yeah. So The Predator, we've talked about it before. The new stuff looks cool. The Predators,
I mean,
it
makes me. I was already excited for it, but then we were talking about this pre-podcast. Is like, you got this and Halloween coming out within a month of each other, So
Or
like,
it comes out in August, doesn't it?
I came
it said
out
September on the
Yeah,
trailer.
it came out
Okay.
September.
I think they
so-
changed it from when it
So you got
originally
this in
It was supposed to
September.
be a summer
yeah,
thing.
and you got Halloween in October, and then you have a couple other,
You have Venom, you have, you know,
so
which could
like
be, Werewolf could be good.
We're looking for kind of a stacked Halloweenish like horror.
Well, this
stuff.
entire year, pretty much every other, every week or every other week has a big movie.
Yeah.
And for horror fans, there should be a bit to be interested in.
Well, one of the biggest hits of the year so far has been A Quiet Place. So I mean,
A Quiet Place is, on track to make more than Solo, maybe. So
yeah, and it had a budget way less.
Yeah.
So,
So John Krasinski gets to be in the next Solo film as Solo, directing it.
He probably would have been better. But, it's just interesting to see how horror's, because, some of the biggest hits of the past, if you just go last year too, it's still in there. And it was a real big hit. So
yeah, well,
and
it made $300 million worldwide.
It made Deadpool
plus.
money.
Like it was a huge hit for like a $30-40 million budgeted movie.
Yeah.
So horror, has big hits every year. And,
Well, and like Get Out, and there's so many stuff that's been good. So that's why I'm looking forward to this run of like September to October this year, because sometimes it's kind of light, or there are movies come out I'm not interested in them.
Yeah.
But this time you have like big names. You got
Well, too,
Predator and you got Halloween.
It'll be interesting to
within a
see
month.
because like last year you had Get Out and It. Get Out was early winter, before
It
spring
was
started.
January,
It
wasn't
was
it?
February. So it started out and then you had It in the summer, and this year you had A Quiet Place in kind of the early spring-ish time frame, and then in the summer you have the Nun spinoff,
Yeah.
and you have the Predator, and then in actual October you have Halloween. So to see how these movies perform should be interesting. Just to see box office wise how some of these movies do. Like, if you put your big tentpole horror release in October, what does that do?
Yeah.
Do people see the Halloween movie in November, like a month out? Mm-hmm. Does it take away the legs of it? Because a lot of times horror movies come out late August, early September, so they have the entire month of September and October to do box office. But a movie like Halloween might be front loaded and do all of its business in the first 2 weeks and then just kind of be done. But if it makes enough, they'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
So
Something else I had read recently too. Anya Stanley, her name is, it's at Bookish Pinko on Twitter. She wrote an article for Dread Central called Gender Bashing, Manly Spectacle, and Predator.
yeah, I read that.
Did you guys read that? Yeah, it's a pretty interesting perspective. Like, I never really looked at Predator much through any more of a lens than like, hey, this is an 80s action film.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave me a new perspective on it.
And I bet that just made a lot of people really angry.
It did. It basically is talking about it's Reagan era masculinity.
Well, just all the
It's in the
dudes, all the
80s.
dudes are ripped. There's a lot of focus on, like when they do the famous Carl Weathers, Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Yeah, I mean, that's like-
arm
yeah.
shake
Yeah.
thing. You focus on the biceps. They all end up shirtless at some point.
Yeah.
Jesse Ventura's character talks about he's a sexual tyrannosaurus, and if it bleeds, we can kill it. So just all this ultra hyper masculine.
I hadn't looked at it through that lens before. RoboCop is much more overt and
the Paul Verhoeven
and it's
satirical-
and its commentary. Like, yeah, it's a satire. So it kind of makes me want to revisit Predator. Actually,
I mean, Predator is so over the top.
Well, I
and-
think too, though, at the time the movie's being made, and like John McTiernan, who also done
Yes.
Die Hard. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of times at the time, the filmmakers who make these movies aren't thinking of any greater
just-
societal
yeah, they're
statement.
making a badass-
They're just thinking of like. But I think a lot of times it comes of the time it's made.
Yeah.
And then you can analyze it after the fact. But like John Carpenter said, like Halloween wasn't supposed to be a morality tale about sexuality and drug use by girls and teens
Yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. It was just a dude that's killing kids, and they're the ones who are having sex are just more distracted.
Yeah, I mean, so but you can look at Predator and like, okay, well, these are the things that were in the public consciousness or the consciousness of the filmmakers and everybody at the
So
time.
maybe the fact that anything strays from that original vision is what pisses off some of the fans.
Yes, yeah. So and it is a different time. We're not in that time anymore. Certain fans may be, and that's your own deal. But it's different times now, so there's going to be different movies made. Creators going to different ideas. But it's curious to see what Shane Black does with it.
Yeah.
What last thing on Predator, my favorite thing ever about that franchise, or just that the first film, is Carl Weathers. Anytime he's in Arrested Development, they always show the scene where he gets his arms blown off and he's
Yeah.
shooting the gun. And I just love that because they were Fox property and Fox
Very
produced it.
iconic scene.
It's just funny though that every time they don't show any of his other acting stuff, they
Yeah.
just show the scene where he's like, and his arms falling with the gun shooting.
So now we'll just move through some brief discussion of movies before we get into Bill and Ted. So Derek, you watched Revenge.
Yeah, it's a movie I had saw a lot of stuff for. I think even like James Gunn had talked about it pretty highly. So it made me, because I'm starting to get to where like I trust certain people and stuff.
Yeah,
and we've talked about it a lot, and I checked it out. And it was a good movie. It wasn't necessarily. I mean, I knew what it was. Like, it was obviously a revenge tale. I mean,
female lead character. Not to get in spoilers, but it is like an assault that leads to a revenge plot. So that trope, I understand that's like how a lot of these movies work. That's kind of old to me.
It doesn't flip it on its head too much, or
no, it's pretty cut and dry. Like, but there are just some ridiculous things in it that almost kind of remind me of what's the Tarantino?
Kill Bill?
Not Kill Bill. Kill Bill was far superior. It's the shotgun leg lady Grindhouse.
Oh,
this has almost
like
some
Planet Terror.
No, just Grindhouse feel to it in some stuff. Like, I don't want to give certain scenes away, but there's like a beer can scene that is used. And it's like the aftermath of it's kind of like they're so ridiculous and over the top that like it feels like something that would be in.
Was
like,
this directed by a female? Right, I think
it was. Yeah. Now, one thing I did not look into, I wonder if it was a foreign film, because I believe they're speaking French for a lot of it. They did speak English in it, but like when you had the trio of douchebags in it that were speaking, they were usually, I think, using French.
Okay, so the director was Coralie Fargate. If I'm pronouncing that probably incredibly wrong.
I assume that she's French,
which was the director. And yeah, is this something I've heard about on different podcasts? I've heard promotions for it. I've heard people talking about it. And then like the synopsis for it from IMDb was: never take your mistress on an annual guy's getaway, especially one devoted to hunting, a violent lesson for 3 wealthy married men. So
I don't know if the other 2 guys are married. They never really state that, but one of them was.
But just basically, it sounds like a revenge tale that doesn't necessarily invert all the tropes on its head, but maybe goes more over the top in a lot of things.
There's a lot of over the top stuff in it, which is that's why it kind of almost has a Grindhouse feel to it to me a little bit. It's not excessively gory. There's one foot scene that's like really, for me, I'm kind of like squeamish.
Well, there's
on,
a lot
like,
of
stuff
movies
to watch, and it's like the one scene that comes to mind is.
Did you watch Gerald's Game?
Yeah, it's about like I don't want to give anything away, but it's like that kind of stuff like actually physically bothers me to watch.
Yeah.
Have you seen Audition?
Yes. It's not quite on that level, but in like, or even in the Thing where they do the needle scene where they're drawing blood, like that to me is hard to watch.
But like, yeah, a lot of movies have stuff like that
this goes on for like a significant amount of time. So it's not just like, but so there is some stuff to it I liked a lot. It's just that like it's a very different than what I was expecting. You see a lot of these movies. But it's not a bad thing, you know. It's just like maybe I'd put some different imaging because it's all a continuous story. There's no time jump, so I was expecting maybe a time.
And 2, it seems like it's not the prestige horror type movie like an Hereditary or
no. This
A24 release. It's more of kind of a modern grindhouse.
Yeah,
should people? I mean, obviously it'll probably drop in rental price here pretty soon. I guess
it was like $7.
Comes out on disc, but yeah, normally there's 7. They come out on disc, and then they're like $4 or whatever. So should people wait till it's like $4 maybe, or is it?
No, I mean
worth the $7.
It was worth. Like I enjoyed it. You know, like I'm kind of glad I didn't go to the theater and pay like $20 or whatever to see it when you go. But like being able to watch it, it was good. Like I said, it was one of those things where you kind of make a movie better than what you think it's going to be. Then you see it, so maybe my own expectations made me
the hype train for a lot of stuff.
Because it was something that I guess was like because the stuff we follow on Instagram and social media and talk about kind of
we're just the target market, so we see a lot of ads.
So I see a lot of ads, and I saw some other people that are professionals that I read stuff about it that made me think it was gonna be really good. And it wasn't bad, it was just maybe. And 2, like I was kind of expecting maybe something more like an Atomic Blonde, but revenge. It's not really that. Yeah. So, but other than that, I mean, it was really good. I mean, it would be something that'd be interesting to see what you all think about it.
Yeah, I want to watch it. I just didn't have a chance to this week.
But like, this kind of brings me to like something you talked about. Like, I would almost like to see like a Furiosa character from Mad Max in this scenario. You know, something that's like, you know, because this character toward the end actually becomes kind of a badass.
So, I mean, it sounds like might be comparable to like Your Next, maybe.
Yeah, I prefer Your Next a little bit more because Your Next was so good. But this is similar to that, a little bit.
Like, I want to check it out, so we'll probably talk about more when the rest of us.
Like, I'll just be interested, but there's just some stuff in it that's like so over the top, and they take some stuff to like a 10, and mainly against the main character, not necessarily against the other people. But I think that also kind of adds into like what makes the movie kind of work for some stuff. But it's mostly set in the desert too, which is kind of cool because you don't get a whole lot of desert movies. But I don't even know where it's at. Because I don't know if it was like in the U.S. or Canada or in,
a lot of times
it's kind of
I don't know if there's a lot of
stuff.
deserts in Canada. There might be.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, when they talk about Canada in the movies,
yeah.
like, where's
So maybe the dudes are from like
Canada.
Montreal. If they're
yeah, they
speaking
could.
French.
Yeah, they could be. Yeah.
All right, so
I would recommend it. Yeah.
So Sean and I had a chance to see Hereditary, and we won't go too much into this. I think we'll do like a separate video about Hereditary.
Yeah, look for that. Like even if you listen to the podcast on iTunes or whatever, go to our YouTube page because we'll do like a video review or something.
But Hereditary is a new A24, so that right there kind of tells you if you're going to like it or not. If you've watched other A24 stuff, so It Comes at Night, The Witch.
But I don't think.
I mean, it's not the same as a movie.
I don't think you should. If you didn't like those two, I think you should give this film a chance for sure.
I
do.
I don't know there's going to be a huge cross-section of the audience that disliked The Witch that would then like this movie.
Maybe.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like,
The Witch. I love The Witch. Not a lot of stuff happens. That's the way I look at it. Some of these films, like The Witch, and what was the other one you just mentioned?
It Comes at Night.
It Comes at Night. Not much happens in those films. They have a few really good scenes that are built on the tension built up prior to that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way those operate. This film, I think, has a lot of little things that happen throughout. Like, it's not one you're just sitting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and you're like, okay, well, is anything going to happen? Like, to satisfy a general audience that just wants to be like scared or see something a little, you know what I mean, like spooky or whatever. There is more of that in here than I expected.
Well, like, so if I had to give like a brief idea, so the basic idea to the movie is just that when the movie starts out, you have a family where the grandmother's passed away, and the movie is just starting in the aftermath of that and dealing with that loss, and the fact that the grandmother was close to like the daughter Charlie, who you've probably seen like the poster or the advertisements for it.
Her granddaughter,
Or
not
her
her own daughter,
granddaughter.
yes.
Her granddaughter, sorry, because the mom's played by Toni Collette, who is also the mom of Haley Joel Osment in The Sixth Sense. So
didn't even
like
realize that.
18 years apart, she's playing the mom in these horror movies that are getting a lot of critical acclaim. And this is a movie where if you like I hate to use just like general descriptions, but it's another kind of slow burn horror movie because there is stuff throughout. It's not all just the last 3 minutes, but it is still kind of what I would describe as like a slow burn horror film that has a lot of family drama and things like that. The end of itself is compelling, and you have characters that are layered, and Toni Collette gives an amazing performance that, in terms of horror is up there. So, it's a little bit slow burn horror that is more cerebral and building a sense of dread.
Well, and too,
things like that.
Some films are built around the scares, and they have characters that are catalysts for the audience being scared. You know what I mean? It seems like there's like, okay, we need to find these characters. Let's get them in a situation where they can be terrorized or scared. This definitely feels like, okay, these are people who know how to write a family drama, but some scary things are happening to them or horrifying things are happening to them. So it's, I think, good writing on top of like, somebody who still wants to make a scary film.
Yeah. Well, I think like the movie, it's completely possible too with this type of movie. Somebody could like it up until the last 5 minutes and then hate it. Just because like a lot of these like kind of slow burn horror movies kind of, you don't get really revealed to what's going on towards the end of the movie. And I think for some people, depending on what it is, like the big complaint with The Witch is it just ends and people wanted it to go 5 minutes further, and hated because it didn't. This one kind of, in my opinion, does go the extra 5 minutes. And some people hate that because like, if you just left it like right here and just let me kind of guess a little bit and put it together myself, I would have liked it more. So it's a movie where it's a slow burn horror film. If any of the advertisement made it seem like The Conjuring or a Blumhouse movie like Insidious or, Sinister, something like that, it's not really those types of scares at all. It's not really, like It was a movie that everybody complained, oh, is it scary or not? But it had just a lot of set pieces and things happening. This movie really doesn't have like set pieces. It has some shocking things that occur, some disturbing imagery, a lot of family drama, and it's all kind of spaced out, but it's not The Conjuring 2 with a nun coming out of a painting on the wall and being like a big jump scare sequence. It doesn't really do that. It's more...
It kind of stays away from the more goofier elements of some of those genre films, supernatural stuff, you know? I personally prefer it way more than I do like The Conjuring or Insidious. But having said that, there's a lot of talk about it being the scariest film since The Exorcist and all this stuff.
I think that just hurts it for anybody that goes
so
into it.
For me, like the last time I was even like tense in a movie was Insidious 3.
Yeah, Insidious 3 is
This did not make me tense at all. I really enjoyed this film. Like I really liked it. We can talk about it more. I liked it quite a bit when I walked out, and the more I thought about it, like I was like, actually I did, and it had some stuff in there that had me think about some things in my own life, and I've seen some people also talk about that too, which I think maybe it was more affecting. I thought maybe it was like kind of a coincidence, but it may had a little more going on than like I kind of expected. And so I don't know, you know, it'll be interesting to see how people look at this film a couple years from now.
Well, right now it's
you know?
got like a D- cinema score. So and two to lay out what the differences are. So Rotten Tomatoes is just an aggregation of, are the critics positive or negative? 100% doesn't necessarily mean that everybody gave it 100. It could mean that it just means 100% of reviews were positive more than negative. So they could be a 3 out of 5. You know, like user scores on IMDb from like the users, those are just like an average of user ratings that have been submitted. Metacritic is just an average of the scores given, and Cinema Score is where they poll people coming out of theaters as to what they thought. The lower the Cinema Score, so if something's below like an A-, that means it's probably going to have bad word of mouth and not be something that gets recommended. So there are some, you know, really trashy blockbusters like Transformers 3 that would get an A Cinema Score because the audience that went to saw it got what they wanted and they're happy, so they would recommend it. This is a movie like this got a D-. I think The Witch had like a C-. Just to give you relative context, Mother had an F.
Yeah.
So
this to me, I've seen Mother, I've not seen this, but this is something we've talked about. Is like when you go in and your marketing campaign puts out that is the scariest movie since Exorcist, you are essentially saying that is true about your movie.
Well, I think
when you pay money to put that on TV or on the internet or whatever, and you direct that toward me, you've paid money. That is your endorsement that this film is scarier than The Exorcist. Regardless whether it's your words or not, you have signed that and sent it to me, and that says to me that's what you're putting your money on.
I think, too, another thing that people may forget.
And then when that doesn't happen, that's on you.
Like I would say, like to me, tonally, it is somewhat similar to The Exorcist in just, you know, the amount of time it takes and the way things work.
Yeah.
Because The Exorcist is not a fast movie. It's not, you know, scares here, there.
But I think that, too, has more to do with it being from the 70s.
So I think that it is like...
And I don't think this is as slow as The Exorcist.
No, but again, I think that also is.
But I just think that, like, you know, you talk about scarier than The Exorcist to an audience that's 17, they'd probably have not watched The Exorcist.
But you've heard of it.
But they've heard of it, and they've heard their parents talk about how it scared them and they couldn't, you know, sleep for months. So you hear that conjures an image, and you go and see it, and you're expecting just to be scared out of your wits. You're not expecting it to be a family drama that requires you to buy into the characters and what's going on to then be, you know, upset about it.
Yeah.
And to me, just like, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was like a very well done film that was very unsettling and set a sense of dread into place from the beginning. It's just I didn't really connect with some of the characters to a great degree. So then when, you know, things are happening, I'm not all that concerned with their fate.
Now, was this another like rich family in the movie?
No,
like
it is.
Really...
So something I complained about to Julie is I'm tired of these horror movies where they have the artist as the person in the family, because the mother, played by Toni Collette, she does miniature art where it's just she makes like dioramas of houses and things in it, and it's very, some of them are really creepy because it like documents parts from their lives and things that have happened. But it's just, how many movies do we need where you have the artist that has a creative block and they're trying to finish something, and they live in a nice house, and like there's so many things where that is the trope.
You know what?
Where they're a writer, they're an artist. It's like,
I mean, part of me wonders too. I mean, granted, that's the people writing it, but part of me wonders too. Like, so there's a party in this film too, and it's a really nice house. And I'm like, we never went to parties like that.
I've never even seen a house like that.
I think it is maybe like, hey, maybe these directors or whatever, they got in the right circles, they went to the right schools, that's why they're making films. They, you know, had their parents had the right connections. Maybe they did live this life, so it's maybe just what they know. Maybe their parents were artists. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. It's just their perspective. I know it sucks when there's so many, but if it's their honest perspective, I think that's fine.
But then you flip over to something we've covered lately, which is Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which is all like in normal houses.
Yeah.
So it's like, to me, I have not seen this movie, but just watching the commercials again, like, I'm a mechanic. I'm middle class. When I see a bunch of rich white people doing art, it's like, man, I don't want to. I don't want to go watch that movie. You're not selling it to me.
It's just, you know,
that's why it's not. That's why it's got.
Well, I think part of it is, so like, you know, Halloween, the original one or whatever. It's, you know, middle class kids and normal-ish.
I mean, there's some bigger houses, but in that era, you could afford those homes and not.
Most people have probably at some point in their life been in a house like the ones in the original Halloween, like those sizes.
Like
of
our
houses.
parents grew up in houses
but
like
if
that. You
go now to like we said in Hereditary, like the one party they went to. Looks like a house out of like Silicon Valley, you know, some multi-million-dollar house.
Or like the one from like Spider-Man Homecoming. That's what I thought too.
Yeah.
And, you know, like a super wealthy New York neighborhood. So it's just one of those things where, to me, I think a lot of people, when you have all these stories where was it Sinister? He's a writer or something. See, all these movies where you have writers and artists and all that stuff. I think it's just the filmmakers like replicating their experience in these movies. And if you're not a creative, a lot of times that doesn't connect with an audience, and that can just push them further away.
Well, you got to have somebody with a job where they can stay at home all day for all the scary stuff that happened too.
Yeah.
They can't be going to office and working 40 hours, or 60 hours a week and be like, I don't have time to be scared, guys. I'm at the office all day.
I got work to do. Got time for this. I mean, like the role that I just went to is work from home. It's not that unreasonable because a lot of businesses now, like big businesses, have found that.
But I think you know, then the job. There needs to be sometimes a thematic link to the job, so it's probably harder to make that if it is like a numbers job, or you know what I mean. Like it is. I think it's because they don't want any dead weight in these films. Like I don't even remember what the dad did in this film.
And I didn't say
because it wasn't important.
Yeah,
hers. You know, her artwork and stuff, it linked to it, and I like that. You know,
it'll allow for a lot of creepy.
But I totally. That happens in so many films where there are artists or writers. I mean, it's just kind of where
even then, like the advertising on this, just like I said, I haven't watched the movie. I would assume through the advertising that just what I would a picture from it is that like what she makes art then would become like what happens in real life.
No,
but that's not what it is. So it's like, okay, so that's not what the movie is. And then
the art's more of a meditation of what's already happened.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but the way they kind of sold it on the early trailers was that like what was happening in that then would like somehow come to fruition and cause things to happen in real life. And it's like,
so it seems like so it's being so like if they
don't know what they're sold.
If they make the trailer for it, make it appear kind of like one of those Crypt TV shorts or something like that would happen.
Yeah,
where somebody would make art and it happens in real life. People go in expecting one thing and get another thing. So to me, I thought it was it was very well done for what it was. Had great performances from all the actors. It wasn't necessarily like my favorite type of horror. Like I could see how people really enjoyed it, and I could also see people really hating it. I think the advertising for it. If I had to guess, like it's been, I think on Friday it made like $5 million. So if it's estimated to come in around like $10 to $12 million for the weekend, I think it'll do that and then drop by more than 65% next week. Just because this type of movie that the word of mouth can be so negative if expectations and reality are different. And horror is one of those genres where everybody's like, oh, it wasn't scary, sucks.
Yeah, it's like horror has a hard time. It's a big risk. You know, you can have a huge hit, but also like a Transformers, you walk in, I want to see some robots fight. They're going to give you that. Whether or not it's good or not, you're going to see some robots fighting.
You might not be able to tell it's robots fighting, but you'll
get some robots fighting. So it's like, well, I got what I wanted.
If you sell Hereditary as like a family drama with these supernatural elements, then people are like, I don't want to see that. If you say, oh, it's super scary, then they're excited.
Yeah.
But then they go in, they're like, oh, it's a family drama with supernatural elements, and then they get upset. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Just
from here, what y'all talked about, and just from the stuff that I saw from the trailers and what I thought, it just something like I said again, like rich white family. I don't care anymore. I don't care about watching rich white people go through stuff. That's been something they've done so much. It's not appealing.
So I mean, like, we'll touch it more on it in like a separate video.
Like, maybe one day if they pay me to watch it, I'll watch it. But
sometimes I like seeing stuff that is disconnected from what I know.
You know what I mean? You hate rich white people and go and watch this.
Yeah.
It's like,
so basically, like I think that it's a very well done movie, and if you're into experiential like existential dread and horror.
So it's like this is a horror movie. And it's like smoke.
Well, no, it's just like the movie itself is more like existential dread and a sense of just like doom than it is scares.
So what's better, this or the movie Doom?
The one with The Rock in it? I would say this is a better movie than Doom.
I'm trying to think what my favorite horror films were from last year, but Get Out and, you know, people will argue if it is, but Killing of a Sacred Deer, like, I love that.
This is more in line with that.
That's my type. But also, too, that did have a lot of, like, dread, but not a lot. Like, a little bit stuff happened there. I feel like this is almost in between. This is, like, close to Killing of a Sacred Deer mixed with something like The Conjuring. Like, you know what I mean? It's somewhere in the middle.
But like, if somebody goes into this wanting The Conjuring, it is absolutely not
it's
that.
not that, but...
But like I find myself more like the more movies we cover, finding myself being a fan more of a genre film. So like The Green Room is a movie I still like. I put that in a pedestal because I really enjoy it. So it's like stuff like this to me is a really hard sell because it's like it just looks like to me it's like I need to take my wine glass and have my pinky sticking out and eat some cheese.
I don't think it is that film at all.
But that's to me how it was sold. And it's like
I don't think it's that at all.
I just think that it's a movie that if a group of like, so I saw on Facebook. I won't say they were because it's somebody I haven't really like somebody on Facebook that I'm friends with saw this movie because they have Movie Pass and go and see a bunch of stuff, and they were super excited for it and talked about they're excited to see something scary. And then somebody commented like, so what'd you think of it? And then the guy was like, well, first off, it was a terrible movie going experience because there's a sound that a character or something in the movie makes that people in the theaters kept replicating the entire time, doing themselves, trying to make people think it was in the movie.
They did it in mine too.
And there was like loud teenagers and people that brought like little kids who were like 6 into it who just did not take to the imagery, which if you bring your 6-year-old to this movie, you're a bad parent. Don't do that. So they said the movie-going experience was bad, but he said it was like a slow burn drama for an hour. And then once you finally started getting into it, the final act went into a direction that to him made it laughable. So I think that's going to be a lot of the general audience response and why it has that D- score. I think you need to go into just realizing, slow burn family drama. It's called Hereditary.
Wait a minute. So is... in the family drama aspect, is it comparable to A Quiet Place? Because A Quiet Place was kind
of different.
So, so I'm saying, but like,
so basically, if you know families where there's like history of disease or mental disability, like A Quiet Place is just about like a sense of loss and parents. Like this movie's different than that. This is about the issues being deeper seated, and that's why it's called Hereditary.
Yeah.
And for me too, like I said, when I told you guys the first part of it, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm enjoying this. Okay, I'm sitting here watching this. It's not like blowing me away or anything. And then as it started going, I liked where it went. A lot. It is very. I mean, it's genre heavy. It is genre heavy as far as the tropes. Like there's stuff happens in the movie that you've seen in a lot of supernatural films. You know what I mean? It's not like this is anything super out there. It's not like The Lobster, where somebody gets to turn into an animal if they don't get married by a certain age. You know what I mean? It's nothing weird like that.
I want to see that.
That movie's really good.
Yeah.
That's from the director of Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but,
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But, sorry, I lost my train of thought. But,
Lobster Boy.
What was I talking about before that?
About the tone of it or the
tuna?
Oh, no. Hang on. So I was talking about not being out there. Oh, so as I watched it, I was like, this is okay. It's not blowing me away. And then it started getting very, I would say, very much into the trope of supernatural films. Like, okay, well, this happens in plenty of films. This is actually more of a genre film than I thought it was. I'm not saying it strictly. It is a family drama. But once it got into that, I was wondering, like, am I going to like this more on my second experience now that I know what this film is? Because it is one of those things where you expect certain things. I really want to know how I'm going to feel about this in like 6 months if I watch it again. And I walked out thinking like, I don't know if I want to buy it right away. Like, I don't know if I want to buy this film. I definitely want to see the special features on it. But now the more I think of it, I think I actually do want to buy it and kind of... I don't know. Just see how this film changes as I watch it.
The only way I want this film to end is if you smash somebody doing basketball and dunk it.
So like
that's just how I want the movie to end.
Yeah. So so we'll talk more about that in like a separate video. But like I said, I think you should get a good idea from what we discussed if you be into it or not.
If you can't tell, I say
check it out.
I already hate it.
I say check it out.
But now we move into our discussion of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from 1989. So not the sequel, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Which I don't think anybody's ever seen.
Like I had seen it because I remember seeing it because it had like the Grim Reaper in it.
Oh yeah, but see, I remember like this is the movie. Just when I was younger, even up until I watched it like the other day, I always thought this was a sequel. And now, this is the first one.
I think, I don't know if the second one, I think it's supposed to be a little bit of a parody of The Seventh Seal, which the guy plays chess with death for his soul or whatever. Yeah. But I think in Bogus, they're already dead and they're playing games. They're playing Twister with death and stuff like that.
Because it has William Sadler as the Grim Reaper in the sequel. And I remember that. It's just
William Sadler.
He kind of looks like Gordon Ramsay in the picture you just had.
But I do
wish
like, so the
Ramsay.
original Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, of course, it's Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter. It has George Carlin in it. And, some other faces show up. And it's a movie where Keanu Reeves, they're doing air guitar, and it's the complete, like, Southern California, airhead
Surfer.
metal guy. Because what's that Adam Sandler movie?
Airheads.
Airheads. They're kind of like those guys.
Because Brendan Fraser is in that movie.
Yeah.
And Steve Buscemi's in it, too.
Because, Bill and Ted, because it kind of pigeonholed Keanu Reeves, and then he broke out of that. He's like, excellent, dude.
I mean, for years up into the 90s, every time you saw the Matrix trailer, whoa. Like everybody made fun of him.
But then he was
for it.
also in The Replacements, like maybe not even 10 years later, and he's Joe Flacco, or what's his name? It's not Joe Flacco. It doesn't matter. The Gene Hackman football movie.
Speed was
Joe
a huge
Flacco's a
film as
reporter.
well,
Yeah.
but still, Speed, he didn't have an iconic character like that. So it wasn't until like Neo where it's like, okay, he's somebody else besides Ted,
Well, 'cause his-
and then
I
now
think
thankfully he's John Wick.
Yeah, so
he's
now
been
he's
able to.
John-
Well, then he was also in Point Break with with Patrick Swayze, and that was 91. So he went from Bill and Ted being kind of like a kid, teen-friendly, kind of high-concept comedy. And, the basic premise, this was on Amazon Prime, so you can watch it for free there. You can buy it on disc and, any of multiple
I have
places.
a DVD copy I got from Pizza Hut when they were like, had certain DVDs with pizza. I specifically ordered a pizza to get the DVD copy of this.
So the synopsis on IMDb is two seemingly dumb teens set off on a quest to prepare the ultimate historical presentation with the help of a time machine. So basically, George Carlin's character opens it up saying that Bill and Ted are in trouble. If they don't pass this class, there'll be trouble for the future. So he goes back in time and is going to help them so they'll pass their class. Now, first off, I know it's just a movie and it's a high concept kind of dumb comedy, but the idea that a class would, like, from high school, I don't remember there ever being oral presentations that would be enough of your grade that you could pass if you did well. So they're failing their class and they have to get an A+ or whatever on this final presentation, or else they'll fail. So they get a time machine that allows them to go back in time and meet historical figures so they can pass their...
It is cartoon logic,
Yeah, so it's very not to be taken seriously. It's far less serious than Back to the Future. There's no time paradoxes.
Back to the Future is like an action adventure that's funny. This is more of a straight comedy. You know what I mean? So it's like any logical things are supposed to be looked over.
Well, and two, like, this comes from an era that wasn't too far off from when Wayne's World came out. So
this is a little before Wayne's World.
So that era, just a lot of that type of music and that type of stuff, it just was very much like you could have had Bill and Ted theoretically go on Wayne's World and
would have fit
right in.
Yeah.
Because Wayne and Garth would have
kind of similar.
Yeah, kind of. And the movie, you go back and you see the historical figures like Billy the Kid and Abraham Lincoln and Socrates, as they call him.
Yeah.
And who else did they get? Napoleon's in it.
Abraham
Lincoln's in it. I'm trying to remember all the people Joan of Arc. So they have all these
Genghis Khan.
So they bring all these figures from the past. They go and interact with them. And they go back to kind of the medieval times to see the princesses that they try to go back and get.
And they use stock footage from War and Peace. Watching it, I'm like, I was like, that looks more blurry, and I know they didn't get all those guys. And at the end, it was like footage, stock footage from the film War and Peace. The battle scenes.
There's just different things where they obviously, like I said, feels the 80s kind of like mid-tier budget where it's not super high, so if it didn't make a ton, it's okay. And that was when you had movies that did have, second life on VHS and video rental and TV, more so than you do now. Now you have like streaming and things like that. and this was before the DVD market really became the boom.
That was.
But Bill and Ted, I remember being in pretty consistent rotation on cable TV, and then the cartoon show, I think, really expanded out the marketing and advertising and in general knowledge of that show. Because the movie itself was one that parents could sit down with their kids and not feel like it's being mind-numbingly, terrible to them, like some of the anime movies from that era may have been. Mm-hmm. And the kids could enjoy it because it's like, high concept and goofy, and these characters are kind of just lovable buffoons. Because was it that Ted is going to have to go to military school if he doesn't do better?
Which, that was funny because there's one point in time where,
Bill's dad is dating one of his, classmates from a year, that was a year or two older than him.
She was a senior when they were freshmen.
I just really love how movies have gotten away from the military school, because I feel like that was, the big thing, if you don't do good in school, you're going to military school. And now it's like, you're not patriotic. You're too good to go to military school.
Because this movie too, Weird Science was another one that was same general time frame.
Yeah, it was a couple years earlier.
But then if you look at Weird Science through the lens of today,
it's very
a couple of incel kids creating their perfect woman to do stuff with them is kind of a dark story.
And Robert Downey Jr. is a bully.
I mean, but to be fair, they don't. That movie wasn't played that way.
And to be fair too, they took a shower with her with their clothes on.
Yeah.
I mean, and that movie wasn't meant to be I'm not projecting this. I'm just saying, if you look at the story today, what it would be if you made that movie again. Weird Science, as it was the TV show and stuff, it's fine. It's a fun movie to go back and watch. This movie is even less retroactively offensive than some of those 80s comedies. There's really nothing in this movie that you watch now and you're like, oh, that's hugely problematic. I mean, some of the racial representation of stuff may be a little bit.
Don't they call somebody gay too? Maybe an inappropriate time. I don't remember. But this, as far as comedies go, I was thinking this film isn't that funny. It's just more charming. You know what I mean? You like the characters. It's charming. There's a few giggles here and there every now and then. It's not like Dumb and Dumber or something where it's just this.
It may have been funny when I was 8.
Yeah,
when I saw this when I was 5 or 6.
Yeah, when you're a young kid, there's stuff that make you laugh.
Oh man, they did air guitar.
But it's one of those films where, even though it may not be as funny now, it doesn't mean it's
not
cringeworthy.
Yeah,
it's just
cringeworthy.
Hey, this is cute. That's what this film is.
This movie too is so many stereotypes, and not that these stereotypes didn't exist before this, but this really kind of played on them.
Yeah.
Because when I think of this movie, I also think of Fast Times at Ridgemont High, because they're kind of that Sean Penn character, but
Alex Winter is the budget.
But I'm saying they're more of a PG version of his character, because he came up at one point, he's rolling up in a van full of smoke like Cheech and Chong. So they're more the PG version of that. So it does have a lot of charm, but it's there's so many stereotypes built off of these characters that we've seen. But you kind of think of this. You say Keanu Reeves for so long was known as this character.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's so funny because you seem like that. It seems like that would have bummed him out. He seemed like a really good guy. I've heard his life story and stuff, but it seemed like that would have bummed him out to where he never would have returned to it again. Yeah. And now he's broken past that twice at least.
Yeah.
Well, as well as the other roles, and now he's you know what? It's time for a third one.
Because his career, he had this movie that was kind of the first that I was aware of him. And then he did Point Break and Speed, which is kind of this, still part of that kind of first act of his career. And then I think he did some other stuff.
Was he in Parenthood, the Steve Martin film directed by Ron Howard? I think he played a boyfriend that got somebody pregnant or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I just remember then the next big tier of his career was The Matrix, which kind of revitalized that. And the original Matrix, it's great. Yeah. The sequels I wasn't as big of a fan of. And then that was kind of the big second act of his career. And then, he kind of was in a bunch of different stuff. And then John Wick has kind of kicked off the third act of his career, with him being, even more badass now than he was in the 90s. Yeah. And it's just because of the way that character is. Because there's all these memes about Infinity War, without spoiling what happens in that.
You've already known.
Where they end up having Thanos do something that, they end up having Thanos kill John Wick's dog. And then, they're sitting back, smiling, and Thanos is, sweating as John Wick's where's my dog?
Well, it's kind of if you watch anime, or, especially Dragon Ball or stuff, where, he's got the worried look on his face with the sweat on top of his head, and it's those memes have been around all over the place.
the Bill and Ted, so the movie itself, when they go back in time to the historical figures, a lot of them are just kind of goofy set pieces.
Yeah.
When they go back and see Socrates, it's kind of goofy. When they go back with Billy the Kid and they have the bar fight where they get thrown through the wall and stuff, kind of goofy. And And then when they go back to like Genghis Khan and stuff like that, and then Napoleon going with the kids to like the pizza parlor thing and eating all the ice cream.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
the
I love
water park.
Yeah, I love the water park bit
Where
because
he's wearing like the weird long underwear.
even like the beginning of the film, they talked about it, having excellent water slides and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you take anybody from any point in time, no matter who they are, if you put them in a water park, they're probably going to have fun.
Yeah.
Like that is a universal thing, but it is a modern convenience that they didn't have before. Water slides.
And then you have Napoleon like going through the slide and like picking kids up and stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing I was thinking, like, it was kind of like a Bond, like Gonzo kind of out there comedy, but it's like they wouldn't let somebody jump in line like that.
Yeah, also,
if it's
too, he didn't
Napoleon.
have.
No cutting.
Yeah, and two, he didn't bring a swimsuit.
And he didn't
a
have money.
Speedo hat.
And he didn't have money.
Again, it's like a cartoon logic. Like
Yeah.
this stuff just happens, and you're supposed to be enjoy the
Well, no,
scenes individually.
He got into the park because he went with like the
Yes,
family with
yeah.
all the kids and he was
Yeah.
short enough.
Yeah.
So, you have all these kind of out there elements and, the movie doesn't go dark at all. They could have went dark. They could have had him go to points in history where there's like all kinds of bad stuff, but the plague.
They could have actually given Bill and Ted a perspective on history
Yeah.
that would have made them mature and grow up, but instead it's all just fun and games.
Excellent.
Yeah, like just like when you get older, you
Wayne's
learn more
World.
about history and stuff, and you're like, oh man, this world sucks, kind of, you know.
But yeah, they don't come out of it being weary and seeing
Yeah.
the horrors of slavery and the way people are treated and, in the 1800s or something like that.
This is definitely a whitewashed representation of
Because like
historical figures. Some historical
when
figures.
they're in the Western like cantina bar, it's not as grimy and gross as it really would have
Yeah.
been. People have their teeth. You go to like the Greek era when they go and see like Socrates or whatever. That was just kind of goofy. There really wasn't too much
Yeah.
there.
I mean,
Like
Genghis
this-
Kong isn't raping and pillaging the mall.
No, but
Yeah.
this kind of honestly feels like Animaniacs a little bit.
Yeah.
Just something like that. Just
Yeah.
a bit where, they get a time machine. And that's what it is. Like this, like you said, this is essentially a live action cartoon.
this could have
movie.
been a Saturday Night Live sketch they just had recurring where they get in
Yeah.
the phone booth and go back in time. Because then you have two where they go.
I wonder if they got I guess the phone booth idea came from maybe like Doctor Who, because that was like been around forever, right? And they always use a phone
I was thinking about that
Oh,
when I was
guess
watching
too.
this too.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah, it's like an
Well, I mean,
American
and
version.
too-
Like instead of Doctor Who being this British, it's just like these stoners from.
Well, I guess too, though, you'd
California.
already had Back to the Future at this point, and they had the DeLorean. Some of the original concepts for Back to the Future involved the literal nuking of a fridge.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just kind of that general, because I'm sure the original script for Back to the Future was available. So they probably just took that and said, well, let's bring the budget down, make it a little bit more, comedic and kid friendly, something we more easily translate into a Saturday morning cartoon with, these kind of likable guys. Let's do that. Because Alex Winter, so he was also in Lost Boys, something else I remember him from. Far less creepy here. So, I think that like they're kind of perfectly cast for these roles. And it will be interesting to see when they make a new movie what the direction they go in will be.
super gritty.
Because
R-rated.
like
Oh, there's a synopsis
okay, there is
for
a
the new
synopsis
one.
for the new
yeah,
one.
it's all right. Let's see here. Sorry.
Because like seeing Keanu Reeves return to this kind of goofy role
Yeah,
will be
it says
fun.
February 11th, 2017, Reeves revealed a plot that time is breaking apart, so someone comes from the future to inform Bill and Ted they're supposed to write a song to save the world. This pressure, along with their marriages falling apart and their kids mad at them. So that's what he said, and then like IMDb has, I guess, a more structured one. It says, 2 would-be rockers from San Dimas, California were once told they'd save the universe during a time-traveling adventure, but find themselves as middle-aged dads trying to crank out a hit song and fulfill their destiny.
Yeah, okay.
Which, that seems
So this is
appropriate.
kind of like Tenacious D in the
Pick of
Pick of
Destiny.
Destiny.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I like the idea that that gives a little bit more grounding, so maybe they won't be the exact, air guitar, whoa, like every other word.
No, this is what I want. It was like, wow.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, it will be interesting to see Keanu Reeves kind of return to that kind of caricature-esque.
Can Owen Wilson be their villain?
Wow.
Wow.
But yeah, I'll be very interested to see where that goes. Like, this movie in of itself, like, I mean, the set pieces are what they are. Like, the medieval one's the one that's kind of like a non sequitur. It's like, oh, they got captured, and then Billy the Kid and Socrates save them, kind of out of nowhere. And then they go to the other time, other parts of time, and then they come back and see each other, kind of the time loop. So the beginning of the movie, they get the time machine, they see themselves from the future, then they are themselves from the future talking to themselves in the past. And that's all kind of interesting and fun.
So I was looking up stuff about the phone booth, and it said the time machine was originally a van.
Yeah.
The characters were born out of improv class. They said originally it was a 1969 Chevy van, but Warner, when they were rewriting the script, Warner Brothers, who showed early interest in it, was afraid that it was too close to being like a ripoff of Back to the Future, it being a vehicle. So he said it was director Stephen Herrick who suggested a phone booth as he thought it could lend itself to something akin to a roller coaster in the visuals. The phone booth similarity to Doctor Who's TARDIS was apparently not a big concern to the studio. And then somebody from, I guess, Nintendo Power won that phone booth in a contest. That has that currently.
Well, I mean, because if you think about it, at the time, like Netflix and streaming and stuff wasn't as much of a thing. So Doctor Who is more of a British show.
I mean, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't.
Didn't they have BBC? I mean, people watched it.
But cable packages weren't as
for sure.
So stuff from overseas was not as prevalent in American culture back then as it would be now. So a lot of people probably had I didn't know what Doctor Who was until the past 10 years.
And I've never seen it, but I sure don't know. Actually, I've seen one episode.
I've never watched it.
I've seen one episode, but
I know enough about it just from pop culture now that I could identify like what it
But I mean, so I think like a lot of these movies, like we were just like when we looked at movies to do, we always do horror movies. Like let's do something that's in the news, the Bill and Ted, something that's a little bit lighter, just to kind of break it up, and something that you can watch. I mean, and two, watching this within the same 24-hour period as Hereditary. I think it was the same night because I watched Hereditary, then I watched Bill and Ted before I went to bed that night.
It was a good
so it's kind of a good palate cleanser to kind of come away from a movie about existential dread and things like that, to come away to this lighthearted romp where they have a final performance or a final presentation at school where they trot out a bunch of historical figures and they get their passing grade and bring Abraham Lincoln out on stage. I mean, they could have gone really dark if they were at the theater the day he was going to die and they had to like stop that or something. Or JFK. They
oh my God.
They have
a little heavy for the tone that they were going for.
Yeah.
So I mean, it all fits with what
And the mall scene where they have all the historical figures of the mall. And they're all getting into trouble.
Yeah, I like that. And Alex Winter. He's like, everybody grab your partner. Like they have partners in the mall so they won't get lost.
And then Joan of Arc's running like an aerobics class. So there's just all this kind of goofy stuff that, lighthearted. And to the mall, like I feel like just watching these old things from the 80s and 90s, malls were a much bigger thing like in the early days of our youth than they are today.
Yeah, I would say like maybe 10 years from now, even not sooner than that, malls won't even exist.
There's like the outlet malls, which are all like the Coach store.
Yeah, I feel like those
Ralph Lauren store.
Around.
So there's like the outlet malls are all the big places like that. But like actual shopping malls are kind of contracting and dying, where the amount of stores in them have reduced. A lot of them used to have 2 or 3 floors, and now a lot of them only have like 1.
Just a little anecdote for me, like we went into Dillard's the other day to go into the mall at St. Matthews, and they had record players on sale.
Yeah.
And they were like $55. It's like, oh, I'll go on Amazon. Well, Amazon had the same one in the color I wanted for $39, and I was going to get it the next day. So it's like, why would I buy that here?
Well, it's just the mall used to be an experience, and I think teenagers still do go to them sometimes because it's somewhere to go and spend time.
I love the mall. They don't have the stores that I love anymore. Like I love the bookstores and the DVD stores.
Yeah, like
they don't
West
have
Coast
that
or
anymore.
Sun Coast
but I still
Video
like it's like a weird like community spot. You know what I mean? Like it is replaced like like hey, this is everybody in our community. Like,
but now you go to them and you have a lot of like the elderly people that go there and walk in the morning.
Yeah.
So you have the walkers. And then now they have those stupid, I guess they're not stupid for kids, but they have like those little electric, like it's like a big like rocking horse that's got wheels in it that kids can ride throughout the mall.
Look, if I could drive one that was an adult size.
I think you can because like parents ride them with the kids.
Did you see that? I don't know if I retweeted that, but essentially in South Korea, they have like the department stores. They have those mechs that kids can get in, and they're like that big. Like, and then we have those shitty little.
Yeah, I think those are cool. Yeah,
like if you're going around the mall in a Gundam, like come on.
Yeah, that's what I want to ride around.
But so I was looking up something else too on this list, and apparently the script was written in 4 days in a coffee shop. There was also going to be Bill and Ted and Bob, I guess, from the Improv, but the Bob guy wasn't as into it. And then when Alex Winters and Keanu Reeves got cast, they they thought they had opposite roles. I guess they wanted opposite roles, or they thought they had it.
Yeah.
And then they went to the wardrobe fitting, and then they I think there when they were getting dressed up, then all of a sudden they realized, oh wait, we are playing different.
Oh wait, I'm Ted and you're Bill.
Yes, yeah. So which
the characters aren't that different.
yeah, like it's weird. Yeah, it's weird that I don't know, but I guess the only difference is. Ted is the one in peril as far as getting sent away. Like that's the main thing. But as people, they're pretty similar dialogue and everything.
Because Bill's just hanging out, calling his stepmom mom.
Yes, yeah.
Who's driving around in her convertible. So,
and he says he has a slight Oedipus complex.
Yeah. Which
while his mom's watching the presentation.
Yeah. So some different elements like that. But I mean, I guess too, like there's not a ton to talk about the movie because it's just kind of lighthearted romp.
No, I'm really excited to see the third one.
And you're either in on it or you're not.
Well, it's so weird though too because I feel like with the Bogus Adventure,
a Bogus Journey or
whatever it is, nobody's ever watched it.
The sequel.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it, and I know it exists.
I just know it's less popular.
So they in that one they die and they go to heaven, hell, and then a couple other places, right?
Yeah, and William Sadler's the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Man, it's just one of those movies. Like maybe if I watch it again, I'll come back. But I always remembered the one we watched, the X Adventure, being I don't know why I thought.
Well, too, for me, a lot of the idea of what that property is commingled with the cartoon series, which I have not watched since I was a small kid. So
I don't think I've ever.
I
seen
think there was
cartoon.
cereal for that too. I saw on that list, which I don't think I remember the cereal.
See, they don't do that as much anymore now. Like every now and then, Nintendo will have the cereal.
Because I remember there may have been Happy Meal toys at some point. I'm trying to remember. I know there were for Back to the Future because I had them. Because they had a DeLorean that made sparks.
We still got that. And there's a couple Mario stuff in the Sonic.
And there's a Marty on a hoverboard or something. But so this movie, I feel like this and a lot of that 80s culture stuff has become kind of ingrained in a lot of current properties and things that are taken for granted. But that era. So I guess we can kind of give us what our scores are, which is kind of hard.
I don't know. I liked it a lot as a kid. It's charming now, so maybe a 7.5 or something. I don't dislike this film at all. I can turn on and watch it, but it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a little light comedy.
Yeah, it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
it's enjoyable, and you haven't watched it in a long time. You can still watch it and have fun.
Yeah.
And two, all the review scores we give are meaningless. It's just trying to contextualize it. And the fact that you give something a 7.5 and then something else a 6 doesn't mean that one's necessarily better than the other.
Yeah, I'm not comparing it to anything else that I've rated. It's just in my mind, where does this land?
Yeah, to me, I'm going with the 7. The thing I compare this to most directly is we talk about a little bit Wayne's World. I would always prefer Wayne's World over this.
For sure.
But this is
Wayne's World's a more fleshed out movie.
Yeah, but watching this also makes me want to go rewatch Airheads because I used to be in Comedy Central all day, every day. I really liked it. So I'm with Sean, a 7.5.
Yeah,
I don't see how you could dislike this.
That's where it is for me. It's as low as it can be without getting into disliking territory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'd say the same region, 7 somewhere. Because I have a lot of nostalgia for that property because as a kid watching the cartoon and stuff. To me, I'll watch this movie and it makes me then go out and swim. And it reminds me of the summer for some reason.
Yeah, well, it's a summer movie. It's something that you probably because there's certain movies Airheads is something that I remember Comedy Central
played that nonstop
during the summer all the time.
Yeah.
So it's and this is probably
I've got that on DVD
movies.
if you can't find a copy to watch on Prime or anything.
Yeah.
So you can watch on Amazon Prime, and it's on DVD and Blu-ray about all kinds of places.
Is that third film 100% happening, or is it
because Keanu Reeves I thought he confirmed it.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it was one of those things where they've been out. Yeah, that's what they've been out doing press for it and interviews and stuff, and they made a big push. But it's is that big push that almost seems like an early push? Maybe it's not too early.
Because I can't.
Or they trying? No, not that. Or are they trying to get some buzz about it to get some more money behind the project? You know what I mean? Is it completely funded right now, or are they trying to earn some funding and get out there? Hey, we have a script. Let's do some interviews for Entertainment
I was
Weekly.
thinking in this day and age of look, Netflix throws money at trash. Netflix literally walks up and says, "This is a steaming pile of dog trash. Here's $50 million."
I think at this point,
so if they don't do that for this,
with any big property, until it's actually in theaters to watch, you can't really say it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's a pretty sure thing. It doesn't sound like it's kind of
what's Netflix's goal? 100 million movies and TV shows.
700 original.
Yeah, it's if this isn't one of them. It's come on.
But is it who's putting this out though? You know what I mean, or who's producing producing.
Well, I would assume that's still owned by the studio
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So, sounds like it's more not like a streaming project, probably an actual
a movie. But I'm saying there's so many more options now than there were.
Yeah, if somebody wants to get this made today, there is
you
a
got
venue
Hulu,
to
you got
release
Amazon, you got Netflix, then you got all the other.
But like something
know.
like making it as a series, I don't think Keanu Reeves is going to do a series.
No. There's
He's got a lot to do.
Not a.
Yeah, I mean, the Entertainment Weekly says it's officially happening.
Yeah. So I think I think from everything I read, it sounded pretty. I don't think Keanu Reeves would be discussing it publicly if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of a big time star now, or again.
Real quick, I said that his name is Joe Flacco. It's Shane Falcone.
Oh.
So they're they're pretty much the same.
Yeah, so I guess I'll wrap up our discussion of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Dude.
If you're listening via iTunes, just a huge favor, leave a review there. That helps other people find the podcast. If you're on YouTube, we always enjoy seeing comments and different things people have to say there. You can always send us, a comment there, or send us an email at podcast@housebydvideostore.com, because we always enjoy seeing any feedback we can get. Like I said, I think for Hereditary, we're going to do a video, so just check that on YouTube if you want to see more about that specifically. And if you want to see more from us...
Or our website, housebydvideostore.com. It's easy to go there and just have to go through a bunch of videos. It'll be the most recent thing, or right along with this podcast.
Yeah, you can find links there to our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the big places we post all the content. And if you want to find us specifically, Internet, the best place to find me is on Twitter, @TheWilliamCaps.
You can find
or not Twitter, Instagram.
Sorry, go on. You can find me at Instagram and Twitter at MetaWorldEric.
I'm at BlevinSean on Twitter.
And that'll bring this episode of the House by Video Store podcast to a close. Thanks for listening.
House by the Video